Welcome to the Awesome Pod Mix. You are listening to Abby. The idea behind this podcast was to talk about how certain movies and TV shows made me feel when I watched them for the very first time. A reputed filmmaker once said, "When a piece of art invokes a similar feeling amidst a large audience, it's the triumph of the filmmaker." That's the magic of cinema. I love the magic of cinema. Today I'll be discussing the first episode of Marvel Studios' WandaVision. This is Marvel's first offering in Phase 4. Whether Marvel creates movies or TV shows, they are all cinematic. The opening of the Marvel Studios title sequence has some new additions post-Infinity War and Endgame. First, the superheroes turn black and white. Then the logo turns from Technicolor to black and white, like we are traveling back in time. If you notice, the aspect ratio changes from 16:9 to 4:3. Even the audio mix of the opening music changes to make it sound more lo-fi. I checked with a sound mixer friend of mine and I was told they must have used a bandpass filter to make it appear like the sound is coming out of an old TV device. The show begins with the sound of a TV remote. We see a TV screen switching on from a black screen. We see the newlywed couple Wanda and Vision in a classic convertible whose bumper reads, "Just Married," and the tin cans tattle. Vision is at the wheel. His bride Wanda Maximoff is beside him. Vision tries to hide his face with his hat as they pass by a postman. The postman waves at them. Why is Vision hiding his face? Everyone knows what he looks like. Wanda and Vision reach their destination. Wanda spots the real estate for sale sign and changes it to sold with a snap of her magical gesture. Vision carries Wanda in his arms and phases through the door to enter the house. Wanda falls to the ground outside the door. Vision realizes Wanda didn't phase through along with him. He opens the door and gets her in. They dance and their character names appear as credits. They dance, he dips her, and then they kiss. The WandaVision title appears on the screen. This episode is a tribute to the popular sitcom of the 50s, The Dick Van Dyke Show and I Love Lucy. Wanda uses her magic to wipe the glasses and simultaneously stack the plates on the shelves. Vision enters the kitchen as he reads the newspaper and the very plates smash into his head and break to smithereens. Vision says, "My wife and her flying saucers." Wanda says, "My husband and his indestructible head." It's funny because Thanos kills Vision in an attempt to pry the Mind Stone from his head. Wanda gathers the plate back together in one piece with her magic gesture. Vision notices a little heart drawn on the calendar of Westview appliances over August 23rd, a Wednesday, but the year is not mentioned anywhere on the calendar. Wanda is trying hard to blend in, but the question is why? She even suggests Vision to transform into his human self. Wanda wonders about the significance of the marked date, and she hears a knock at the door. Agnes barges in with a potted plant wrapped in a bow and introduces herself as the neighbor to her right. Post her discussion with Agnes, Wanda arrives at a conclusion that it may be hers and Vision's anniversary. Agnes's anniversary is on 2nd June, which is the same day as the beginning of the Salem witch trials. June 2nd, 1962, Bridget Bishop is the first to be tried and convicted of witchcraft. Vision works at Computational Services Inc. with incredible speed. Last I remember, Vision did not have super speed. Pietro did, Wanda's brother. Norm, Vision's colleague, refers to Vision as the walking computer. Vision's boss reminds Vision of the dinner event, and it's the rite of passage for every new hire. Jones's wife failed despite a 5-course meal and a string quartet. Wanda is preparing for the anniversary celebration with music, decor, wardrobe, and seduction techniques by reading Agnes's glamorous magazine. Wanda receives a phone call from Vision at the office. Vision thinks Wanda and him are on the same page, but Wanda's interpretation of their conversation is miles apart from the same page. Cut to a commercial. ToastMate 2000 by Stark Industries. The toaster makes the same sound as Tony's repulsor when he aimed to fire. The toaster light blinks red. This is the only color we've seen on screen since the transition to black and white. The ticking of the red light speeds up and sounds like a ticking time bomb. It sounds like Stark Industries' Jericho missile that destroyed Wanda's home, killed her parents when she was just a child. ToastMate 2000 by Stark Industries. Forget the past. This is your future. Vision arrives at the house with the boss and his wife while the house is lit with candlelights. Vision rushes to fetch Wanda from the kitchen. Wanda walks out and sneaks behind Mr. Hart, closing his eyes, asking, "Guess who?" Vision returns and flicks the lights on, and Wanda realizes her mistake. Vision tries to cover up, saying, "It's the traditional Sokovian greeting of hospitality." The dinner event goes haywire because nothing is prepared. When Wanda tries to salvage the situation, all things get messier by the minute. Agnes comes in to help, but I figure she's only doing this to snoop around. Wanda finally manages to conjure up some breakfast for dinner. When Mrs. Hart asks, "Where did you two move from? What brought you here? How long have you been married? And why don't you have any children yet?" Wanda wants to respond, but she's at a loss of words, and so is Vision. Mr. Hart continues to hammer them with his questions. However, Mrs. Hart is more supportive of Wanda and Vision to reveal their story. The wide shots now change to slow track and close-ups. Once Mr. Hart starts to choke, and Mrs. Hart repeatedly asks him, "Stop it," smilingly with tears in her eyes. Mr. Hart falls off his chair to the ground. Wanda asks Vision to help him. Vision saves Mr. Hart, and everything simply goes back to normal, as if nothing ever happened. All is hunky-dory. The guests leave. Vision changes his appearance back. Wanda says, "We are an unusual couple, you know." Vision says, "I don't believe there was ever a question." Wanda says, "What I mean is we don't have an anniversary, or a song, or even wedding rings." Vision says, "We can remedy that. Today can be our anniversary." Wanda says, "Of what? Surviving our first dinner party?" Vision says, "Precisely. And our song could be Yakety Yak, naturally, naturally. And the rings? Could you make some for us?" She waves her magic hands, and both of them now have a ring on their fingers. Both of them say, "I do." They kiss and tilt their heads toward each other. Vision presses the remote button, and a hexagon frames them on the TV screen, and the end credits roll. The camera tracks back to show someone surveilling them on a monitor with a console that sports the Sword logo and is making notes in a notebook with the Sword logo. "Please stand by" appears on the screen. This has been the biggest tease in the history of any TV show streaming. The RGB pixels form various spaces of the Westview town. It includes a red flower, a pair of spectacles, the gazebo, the water tank, Butterfly Mobile, the house staircase, the WandaVision house, the Scarlet Witch crown, the comic book accurate Vision with the Mind Stone. The pixels now explode across the screen for a bit to form a specific shape. Toward the end, we realize it's interconnected wedding bands. I noticed Elizabeth Olsen's name appears first, and then Paul Bettany's. The television static appears, and we see the title, WandaVision. It fades to black, and the end credits begin to roll. One of my friends worked as a VFX production manager on this project for the company Monsters, Aliens, Robots, and Zombies. This episode's title is filmed before a live audience, which they actually did. They got a bunch of people dressed in period-appropriate attire and shot the episode like a live stage play. You can listen to the Awesome Pod Mix and subscribe to it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and Google Podcasts. If you like what I'm doing, I'll be launching the Awesome Pod Mix page on Patreon soon, and you can support me there. Thanks for listening.